Hi there, I'm April from The Moon is My Calendar, and this is a mini moon lesson about eclipses and the lunar nodes. I'm going to talk about three things: the planets, the alignment, and what are lunar nodes, and how do we personalize them, and what opportunities do they present during eclipse season. So we'll look at the planets, we'll look at the body, nodes in the body, and we'll look at plants. And so how all of these three planets, body, and plants, how they're all interwoven and interconnected in our understanding of eclipses. So to begin, the word node, the lunar nodes, like what in the world is that? It's a point in space. The word node comes from the Latin word that means knot. So from Latin, then into Spanish, the word nudo, N-U-D-O, nudo, is a knot. When you think about a knot, there's this tightening, almost this like energetic stuckness that's tied in a knot. In many spiritual traditions, part of the understanding of our journey is to unwind, to unbind ourselves, to untie those knots. So the lunar nodes then are these places or these points, these bundles of energy where the moon's orbit meets the orbit of the earth around the sun. So I'll say that again. The lunar nodes are points in space. They're just, they're in many ways energetically charged because they are they create the conditions for eclipses. And so because it doesn't happen every new moon and every full moon, there is almost like this buildup of pressure to come to the eclipse. So when the moon's orbit meets the Earth's orbit around the sun. So I made this little paper diagram to kind of illustrate that. Here's the sun. The Earth is down here. The moon is orbiting around the Earth. And this plane is it's the plane of the ecliptic, meaning it would be as if the Earth had like the surface that it's traveling around the sun at a particular angle. The moon's orbit is tilted 5 degrees from that angle. So what it means is that most of the time the moon is tilted so that during full and new moons, they're not in alignment to cast a shadow. But every 6 months, when the moon on its orbit reaches the node, which is that point in space where this orbit, that 5-degree tilt of the moon, meets the Earth's orbit around the sun, the plane of the ecliptic. When they meet up, then there's this alignment. The Earth, the moon, and the sun all in alignment so that shadows are cast. So that's even feeling into that. Shadows are cast. The lunar nodes, those points in space, this crossing over of two orbits, creating the condition for eclipses, for shadows to be cast either on the Earth or from the Earth's shadow cast on the moon for a lunar eclipse, and then the moon's shadow the moon crossing the sun to create a solar eclipse. So these conditions are possible because of the nodes. And so hopefully this diagram kind of illustrates why it is that they don't happen all the time and what it is for the node then to be responsible for eclipses, but it's only a point in space where the orbits cross each other, where they meet. Eclipses only happen on new moons or full moons. That's the alignment, this lining up, this kind of locking into place. And when with a node, right, that's the knot. That's the knot. And when that comes into place, then what can get unlocked? And that's what you can look for around eclipse seasons. Again, they happen every 6 months. It's like clockwork because of how the moon's orbit moves every 6 months. It comes back around the position of this alignment. And eclipses happen in pairs. So there'll be a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, or a lunar then a solar, at least 2 back to back, if not 3 or more, because of where the shadows, the position of the nodes for the shadows to be cast. So that just gives us an overview so we can sort of picture and visualize when somebody's talking about the nodes or the lunar nodes or the nodes of fate. These are, especially in Vedic astrology, they're understood as the mouth and the tail of this dragon that's churning and moving and chasing each other and swallowing and digesting and letting out the other side. So there's this constant process of a renewal, of like a swallowing up and then a digesting and the letting out. So with eclipses, something to consider is pruning. Pruning, pruning, pruning. So I say that and I'll bring in then this element of the plants. So pruning, this is a rose geranium. Many plants need to be pruned. They'll actually suffer if they're not pruned. They'll like suffocate themselves. And this rose geranium wants to be pruned. It's getting kind of leggy, and you can see these bumps. These are the nodes, these bundles of energy. And so down here, especially see that where there's where it's leafing out, you can cut down to where the node is, and then new growth will come from there. So this is a consideration for when we're thinking of the lunar nodes, especially if you connect with plants, to feel into where the plant wants to grow from and where you want to grow from. What needs to be cut back so that then you can, in that bundle of energy, in that knot that may be just like tied up and stuck, what wants to be released. So eclipses can be really powerful to work with in the process of personal transformation and in the overall collective, because the whole earth experiences the eclipse. And in many ways, the eclipse almost like rings this bell or rings this gong of like the alignment happens, and then there's ripples. And so from one eclipse to the next that's often what's called this eclipse season, almost like these parentheses or bookends. And yet those bookends are like this like wave of vibration that's really intense in that season, that window of time between full and new moon or new and full moon, and then dissipates. So feeling into the plants, the nodes of the plant, feeling into the body, the nodes of the body. So the lymph nodes and the lymphatic system. There's lymph nodes in our armpits. There's lymph nodes here at the neck and kind of even behind the ears, the thymus. So the body has these nodes and these places that are almost like the filtering out of what needs to be released from the body, and really detecting, hypersensitive to any kind of pathogen that's in the body, that the lymphatic system can help to release and expel. So these three things combined, and I haven't ever heard anyone talk about eclipses in this way that brings it into an experience in the body of how am I processing and releasing what may be something that beyond not serving us, but that's actually really like draining energy from the inside out. So how to work with the body and how to really boost the immune system and give some love to the lymphatic system to move the body, to practice long, deep breathing, of really helping to the lymphatic system to do its job. It's not an area of expertise of mine, so there's many great books and practitioners getting lymphatic massage, this kind of thing to help aid the body in what it's good at, which is release and renewal and release and renewal. Connecting with the plants. Again, seeing if you just can observe and appreciate the nodes of plants. They're like, my mom grows roses, and so knowing where to cut back roses at a particular node so it really sparks and inspires new growth. And then with the planets themselves, the other layer of significance is what sign the nodes are in, and looking for that in your own personal chart. So that's beyond this video. beyond the basics. But there are many ways to personalize the eclipses to your experience so you can work with them rather than getting blindsided. Because oftentimes, this alignment, when the planets line up in an eclipse, it can really highlight and show us in our life what is out of alignment. And that becomes often very intensified and almost glaring, and possibly, depending on the themes that you're working on in your life or what's really coming up, there can be pressure around that area, almost like the squeeze is on, and to work with that rather than resist.